Okay, hello. I am going to talk you through the chicken wing dissection. So here are the instructions. So first, this part of the instructions right here, this is only going to be online. Okay, I'm not going to print out a copy of this because to do the dissection, you don't actually need that part. Okay, but at the bottom, it does have the materials, okay, which will be laid out. So you'll just have to make sure that you know exactly what you're supposed to grab. So you're going to need a lab handout. So do you see this is inside one of these page protectors? Makes smart sense. Okay. You'll need labels. You'll have a set that are dark color. Those are day 1. Then you'll have a set that are light color. Those are day 2. And then you will need a gloves. Gloves you will only need for the person who is actually doing the dissection. Okay, the person who is not performing the dissection will not need gloves. So you're working with your table partner. One will take pictures. Don't need gloves for that. Okay, and you can obviously switch. All right, for the next day. Okay, and so we have gloves. We have a tray. Okay, so I have a blue one that I have with me. I have a probe, okay, scissors, forceps or tweezers, they're called either. All right, so I have my labels, my instruments, my directions, okay, and then lastly, I need my chicken wing. Okay, so I'm going to put the chicken wing on the tray. And now I'm going to angle the camera so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Otherwise, what's the point of watching this? All right. All right, there we go. Here's our chicken wing. All right, so part A, the skin is the external covering. The skin will have a web-like appearance, and you can usually see evidence of where feathers. Oh, look, I literally have one right here. This literally, I didn't even plan this in this chicken wing. Literally right here. Look at that. Okay. Um, take a picture before making any cuts. And then I need 2 labels, skin and feathers. And I don't have to worry about touching these with my gloved hands because I am not going to save these labels. These labels are going to get thrown out. Okay. Now, if you do not end up having a chicken wing that has a piece of a feather attached, you can see you would see little holes where there would have been feathers. So you would have to use that. So this would be your first picture, and then you would use an arrow to point to where the feathers were. All right, so I'll set those labels aside, and let's move on to B. All right, it says cut a slit in the skin covering the largest bone, the humerus, so up here. All right, so now I'm going to need my scissors. Okay, and I'm going to cut a slit in the skin up here. All right. Lift a corner of the skin. And oh, this is actually perfect right here. All right, so lift a corner of the skin, and it says, notice the shiny thin membrane that covers the muscle. See right here, this right here, this shiny thin membrane. That is connective tissue. So I'm going to hold this up, grab the label, put this connective tissue in there. I'm going to kind of try to hold it because the arrow is going to need to go to this right here. Okay, so connective tissue, that's part B. But I also need to label skin, which that's in my hand. Okay, so, and I also need to label muscle tissue. Okay, so let's set that one over here. Let's just slide this. There we go. All right, so muscle tissue. Where's muscle tissue? This right here, this like redder colored, pinker colored. Okay, so the things that you're going to need to label, all right, muscle tissue, connective tissue, this little thin membrane right here, and then skin. Okay, that's in this picture. Okay, now I can set these aside and I do not need these labels any longer. Okay. Now continue to peel back the skin slowly and gently. You should see a tissue between the skin and muscle that is yellowish to the color and greasy to the touch. So now I'm just mostly using my hands, but as I need to, I can trim the skin with scissors to kind of get it to pull back. All right, and I'm going to be looking for that tissue. Sometimes it helps as you move down. Keep looking. All right, I'm still trying to just pull the skin away. You can see right there, I'm having to trim that connective membrane because that is that connective tissue because that is connecting the skin and the muscle. So I'm going to continue kind of pulling. That is a little bit right there. This is not as fatty of a piece of chicken. Okay, but I kind of have some right here. Okay, so let me turn it. Use my probing point. See right here, this tissue underneath this piece of chicken is not as fatty as some other ones that I have used, but it's going to be underneath the skin. Okay, so it may be attached to the underside of the skin, but right here it's that sort of yellowish color, and that's adipose tissue. That's fat. That's some insulation for this chicken. So what I need in this label is adipose tissue. So again, right here, okay, this adipose tissue. All right, now continue to peel back the remainder of the skin. So I need to pull off all of the skin from this chicken wing. Now, right here is also a spot where I might see some in this thickness right here. So cutting this skin right here does help in the removal process. This is kind of the most challenging piece, is to get all of the skin pulled off. Okay, now some of the skin at the joint, okay, you can see it kind of puts some muscle into it. Some of the skin at the joint may not come off, and the skin at the wing tip, which I'll show you what I mean, we kind of don't have to worry about because we're actually not really looking at anything in that area. All right, so my goal is just to get all of this skin off. Okay, so let's trim up here, skin aside. All right, that's pretty good on the top. Let's see if we can get a little bit more down here. I'm going to need my scissors for some assistance right here. Trim that. This is usually right here. This part, this is usually the most difficult to remove, but I am going to try to get some of it using my scissors to get kind of under there. I don't want to cut too deep because then I'm going to be removing the muscle, which I don't want to do at this point. So let's trim the skin. This. Again, you can see this is where it is the most difficult, just so you have an understanding of where you may have trouble removing the skin. Right, so let's just try and get, there we go, get this piece off for sure. Let's try to trim just a little bit more on this side. All right, I don't think I'm going to get too much better. All right, so this is okay. So like this. All right. And then, so again, here's where it's going to be difficult to remove right here along this bone. And then on the wingtip, we don't have to worry about it. So now it says, what should be visible are all of these muscle fibers right here. This is all muscle, okay? And then we're just going to take a picture. Let's take a picture this way because you can see that's a little bit nice. I don't have all that extra skin. So I do need my muscle tissue label. So right there, muscle tissue. Okay, so there we go. And I'm going to take a picture there. Now I'm going to look at some function, and here's where usually some people may have trouble. So looking at the upper arm, so right here, this is the upper arm, the humerus. Notice that you can kind of see muscles on both sides. I see some muscles over here, plus there's some muscles over here, okay? So hold the wing at the shoulder. So I'm going to hold it up here. So let's just tilt the camera up a little bit. So I'm going to hold the wing up here at the shoulder, okay? And so I'm going to try and grab muscles that are near the anterior side. And here we go, pull. See that? See what happened? Okay, so I'm sort of mimicking the action of that muscle. Okay. So I'm just going to find muscles on one side, okay, and get this to happen. All right. And you're going to try to get to take a picture of this in action. So that's why you're going to need a co-partner, right? Because you can't do this. You're holding at the shoulder, you're pulling the muscle, and then you're going to get somebody to take a picture right there in action. Okay. If you do not have a partner, then this is where you're going to ask for some teacher help, right? So right here at this point, that would be, and the label you would use, okay, this is the upper arm, okay? That's it. Now I'm going to try to do the same thing on the lower arm, but here's the lower arm, has two bones. If you've eaten chicken wings, you remember that. So there's two bones right here, the radius and the ulna. And also there are groups of muscles on both sides of the lower. Okay, so you can see bundles. So what I'm going to try to do here is hold at the elbow this time. Not holding at the shoulder, holding at the elbow. And then I'm going to try to grab muscle and see if I can make, there we go. All right, do you see how that one straightened it out? If I can grab one on the other side, because it was hard for me to get that skin off on that side. It's not going to be as easy. All right, so I'll try and hold this one bent for a second, and then you can see as I pull that. All right, so let me just try. I hold this. This is bent. I'm holding at the elbow, and I pull this muscle. See what happened right there? To this wingtip, pull the muscle. There you go. Pull the muscle. There we go. All right, so you're going to have to try to take a picture of this in action again. So here's our lower arm. So again, I'll just try and show right here. Now you could also take a video, but that's not necessary. Just a picture of this in action. Okay, there we go. All right, now it says we are at the end of day 1. So then what you would need, Ziploc bag, Sharpie, put your chicken wing in the Ziploc bag with a Sharpie, and what you need to put on it is your table number and your period number. All right, so then you're going to be able to use it the next day. All right, then you're going to throw out the skin, right? You are going to wipe off your tray, wipe off your instruments, okay? Give the bag to your teacher, okay, for storage for the next day. wash your hands. Okay, these labels are going to get thrown out. Okay, I've touched them repeatedly, even though I had gloves, but I touched them repeatedly. Raw chicken. We are not saving these. Okay, so all of these labels I used are going to be thrown out. Okay, I will not need them again. And then when you return to class on the next day, you're going to take out your chicken wing, okay, and get ready for the next step. Okay, so the next step on your directions, we were all on the directions on this side. Day 2's directions are on the opposite side of the paper, so I'm going to look at those. So again, I need the lab handout. I need the day 2 labels, which these are the white colored ones. Okay. I need the tray. I need gloves again. I need my instruments. Okay. And then I need my chicken wing, the one that I was working on. So now I'm ready for day 2. So blood vessels. So the skin is peeled back. I'm going to look for blood vessels. And I see one right here. So I'm just going to, this is the connective tissue. But right here, see what runs. I'm going to trim this connective tissue right here, just the connective tissue, right, to try to get a better view of that blood vessel. You know, it's when you eat a chicken wing, it's those like dark pieces that you kind of can find as you're eating the chicken wing. All right, that is a blood vessel. Okay, so again, I'm just, there we go. Now I can see that one a little bit better. All right, so I'm going to just kind of trim, again, the connective tissue. I can kind of go a little deeper, right? So just kind of trying to move this aside, this muscle tissue, until I can see a blood vessel more clearly. All right, so right, I guess here we go. So this right here, this dark right here, you see this dark piece that's running through right here, that is a blood vessel. So I need a blood vessel label for my picture, okay? And we're talking right here, okay, that dark line that is running, that is the blood vessel. Okay, so I can set this one aside. Now I'm going to look at the shoulder joint or elbow. Notice the shiny white pieces. Oh, there's a perfect one right here. This. See this right here? Oh, not this one. Here we go, right here. This. That's all I can tell it's the right thing. Okay, right here. See this? Do you see how it has some muscle attached to it? Then there's this shiny band. Okay, this is a tendon. It attaches the muscle to the bone. So this right here. So I'm going to get a tendon picture label. Okay, and I'm going to get, well, also I'm going to get a picture of it. So right here, this, attaching the muscle to the bone, this tendon, this little white band right here. Okay, set that aside. Now cartilage. So I'm going to look at this surface of this humerus. You see this, like, it's kind of slippery when you touch it, this on the bone right here. That pearly white hard tissue covering the end of the bone, that is cartilage. So I'm going to put this label right here. Oops. Okay, cartilage. Here we go. That is this hard, white, pearly, slippery tissue at the end of the long bone. okay? So your bones don't rub against each other at your joints. That would be painful. All right, so now that's what I was showing you at first, and then I realized it didn't attach to a muscle. So I'm going to look up here again at this superior surface, and I'm going to find real thick ones. Like here's one right here, this real thick band right here that's sticking out. This is not attaching any muscle. This would overlap the bone and attach bone to bone. Up here would be the shoulder, like the clavicle and the scapula. So this right here, this thick band would be attaching that. So this right here is a ligament attaching bone to bone. So right here, this would be a ligament, okay, attaching bone to bone. All right, so now we're going to go on a nerve hunt, okay? So nerves are usually found a little bit deeper, okay? And sometimes they're running alongside blood vessels, but here is one right here. So this is the most common place where I can find one, at least when I've done this dissection before. Okay, so right here, just going to try to pull it up a little bit. Scissors. And go next to it. I don't want to cut it itself. Okay, but I want to kind of show you clearly, right? So I don't have to worry about cutting so much. Right here, this. See this shiny band right here? Okay, again, this is the easiest spot that I know to find one, right here. This shiny band, okay, a nerve running along here. Okay, so this shiny thin band right here, nerve tissue. Okay, so again, it's this shiny band. You can dig deeper and find some, but this, again, the easiest location to find one without having to dig real deep. This shiny, thin band. Okay, you can see it kind of running along here. Okay. Now I am going to remove all of this muscle from I'm only looking at the superior section, so just around the humerus. So I'm not going to be worrying about the radius and the ulna. I'm just looking up here at the superior side. I'm just going to cut off all of this tissue, all of this muscle tissue, so that I can see the bone better. Okay, so pull on that, then trim with scissors. Okay, I'm going to try to get as much of this off as I can. All right. We see another, look at that. Now we could see, look at this. We see another nerve running along here. See that? That thin, shiny tissue right there. See another nerve running. Okay. Again, using my scissors. Try to get most of this tissue off of this superior part. So you're going to want to get to the bone. All right. So get as close as you can to the bone. And if I leave some at the end right here, where the site of attachment, that's going to be okay. All right, so now when I get down to the bone, what you should notice is there is a thin, shiny covering on the bone itself, okay? And that thin covering of the bone is the periosteum. Right? It provides, so it's this thin covering laying right on the bone. Okay. So right here. this thin covering laying right on top of the bone. So if I put my tool under it right here, you can see that thin covering laying right on the bone. So that might be a good point. Set this aside. The periosteum, so that thin covering right on the bone. Periosteum. That's going to provide like nerves and blood vessels for the actual bone because, you know, bones are living tissue. So now the last part, okay, is I am going to need scissors, okay, to cut through this bone. All right, so let me go grab those. Okay, there are not enough pairs of shears, okay, to go around. So your teacher probably has a few. I know myself, I have a couple pairs. And then I just come around with these more intense shears, and I'm going to cut right through this long bone. Like that. Okay, now I can see red marrow inside and the long bone on the outside. So this is going to be my final picture. Long bone and red marrow. Okay, so let me just point using the probe. Here's what I'm talking about. This is the red marrow on the interior of the bone. This is the long bone around the outside. So you can see compared to the thickness of the bone, as we cut that transverse section right through that bone, the bone is relatively thin. The marrow takes up most of that width. So the long bone and then the marrow inside. Okay. Then you're going to follow similar cleanup procedures, except now I can put this chicken wing bone in the Ziploc bag and throw out the labels. But I'm going to wipe off the tray and the instruments again, and then I will be all set. And that is the completion of the dissection part, and then you're going to build the PowerPoint, complete the assignment as directed. Okay, there you go. That is the chicken wing dissection.